What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to talk about Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right. Really don't care. And him rejecting for the whole state of Florida the AP African American Studies course. A organization called College Board, which manages the SATs as well as the advanced placement courses, AP courses, and also CLEP tests, very recently have put together an AP course for African American Studies. And right now they're at the stage where they're testing it out in different markets, slash educational institutions slash school system, right? And Governor Ron DeSantis, he said that, basically he rejected the whole AP course for the state of Florida. And by the way, College Board, they created this course, or, gathered together a group of scholars to make this course. And part of what prompted them to make this course, or perhaps what totally prompted them to make this course, was the whole situation with George Floyd, right? You guys remember the situation that happened with George Floyd. And you also remember how it was like almost on trend, if not on trend at that time, trendy to be anti-racist, right? Everyone was shouting, Black Lives Matter. Woo! I'm so woke. I'm calling out the system. And I'm not saying this and directing this towards like black people, but I'm directing it towards non-black people. Particularly the non-black people who were doing it as a trend versus doing it from a genuine place of concern and advocacy. What I'm going to do is read an article that further explains the situation, and I'm going to give my thoughts and opinions about this as I go, and ultimately just let you know what I think about this whole situation in general. But I'll just provide somewhat of a spoiler alert, and that is, it's very shameful and offensive, but sadly not surprising. But considering that the state of Florida does have a significant black population, it's especially shameful, as well as this country too, of course. So let me get into this article. So the title of the article is Florida Rejects AP African American Studies Course. Here's what it actually teaches, by Allison Durkee, Forbes staff. And this article is from Forbes.com, so shout out to them. So the article goes and says, or begins, Florida has drawn widespread controversy for rejecting an African American Studies course that Governor Ron DeSantis and his administration claim, quote unquote, lacks an educational purpose and pushes a quote-unquote political agenda through the topics the state has objected to, or rather, though the topics the state has objected to make up only a very small portion of the course's full curriculum spanning African American history and culture. So right here, Ron, he's saying that he don't want it in his state because it lacks an educational purpose. I've also heard that he was quoted as saying it lacks educational value, and also it pushes a political agenda. And I'm just going to tell you up front right here, right now, everything in the public, especially public, but also the private, in the school system and the educational system in the United States pushes an agenda. everything, especially courses about like American history and world history, government, economics. The bulk of the curriculum that's in the average public and private school in the United States, I'm pretty sure it concentrates majority, if not practically exclusively, on pushing an agenda that basically says and argues that white is right and everything else outside of that is irrelevant. And people love to talk about agendas and people pushing an agenda, right? It's all good when the agenda is in your favor. Then you really don't hear people talking so much about quote unquote pushing an agenda. But the thing is, the agenda that's pushed by the school systems in America, it's so normalized that people just don't even notice it. But take a moment and really think about your education within the school system in the United States or perhaps wherever you are from, especially if you're in a country that is not like majority black people. Now, it may be different in like countries in Africa or perhaps the Caribbean, but in countries where there's a black population, but the black population is considered to be in the minority, think about it. In your education that you have received, did you really learn that much about the contributions of black people, in this case African Americans, but also I would say just black people in general, whether it's contributions historically, contributions in certain fields like perhaps literature, science, technology, etc. Did you really learn that much about that? Probably not. And as well, think about this too. Did you learn about other groups of colors' contributions to the country that you're in? Like, did you really learn about, say, indigenous people or Asian people or Hispanic or Latino people? Any group of non-black people. Did you? Probably not. And if you did, I feel like it would probably be like later in your educational career path, like say maybe sometime in college. And you probably had to take a very special course that concentrates specifically on that topic. Like, many black people take like an African American studies course in college. Some black people even major in African American studies, or perhaps pursue a minor in African American studies. And as well, this happens with other groups of people too, like say Native Americans, Asian people, Hispanic people. So it isn't exclusive to black people, but the topic at hand centers around African American studies. So that's what I'm concentrating on, and that is what prompted me to make this video. But Ronnie, he says that African American studies lack an educational purpose. Well, a lot of the stuff that we learn in school, low key and high key, lacks an educational purpose. It's like, right? You can argue that, say, this American and British literature lacks an educational purpose. These history courses that they use to brainwash us lack an educational purpose. Had he had said, oh, African American studies lack job market value, our value on the job market, yeah, I feel like he would still receive some criticism, but I feel like that would have been a more valid excuse, even though a lot of the things that children are learning in K through 12 school as well as college lacks a value on the job market. Right. But let me continue. So here are some facts about this AP course. So the AP course was designed by about 20 college professors across the country to give a comprehensive overview of African American culture and history. According to one of the professors involved, and is now being piloted at schools before launching nationwide. So they're testing this out at the moment. It hasn't quite been like set in stone as far as the curriculum. So they're testing it out and trying to get some feedback so they can kind of make tweaks here and there and changes and revamp things if necessary so that they can have like the best variation of the AP course available for when they officially launch it. Another fact, the AP course will focus on Black communities in the United States, but put them in the context of the broader African diaspora, according to a copy of the curriculum made public by NBC News. Oh, that's something. So, it's going to concentrate on Black people in the United States, but of course, it's going to include, I guess, part of the African diaspora outside of the United States. I wonder how that's going to look. Well, if you're in Florida, I guess you ain't going to find out. The course has 4 major units: history of the African diaspora, the period of slavery and abolition in the United States, African American experiences since slavery was abolished, and various Black movements and debates, including feminism, Black power, the civil rights movement, along with African American experiences today. Uh-oh. See, that's when I think that, the types like Governor Ronnie, Governor Cave Dog, the types like them don't really want to get into. Because, when Black people start really talking about history, especially like Black people in the United States, African Americans, when they really start talking about history, like Black people start talking about their experiences in the United States. And it's like, oh, wow, that's crazy that happened. Like, who did that? Who would do something like that to a person, to like human beings? And then it's like, well, the perpetrators are white people, Caucasian people, bigoted Caucasian cave dogs, right? The ones who participated and perpetuated it. But the article goes on to explain within those 4 units, there are 102 smaller subtopics that cover history, culture, and concepts like cultural appropriation and post-racial racism, including Juneteenth, the Harlem Renaissance, literature, music, military service, and Black suffrage. The Florida Department of Education said the state's rejection of the course was based on 6 of those subtopics, and here they are. Intersectionality and activism. Really? That's a part of it? So, you can't be Black and a woman, you can't be Black and homosexual, you can't be Black and non-Christian. They don't want to hear about your intersectionality or your activism. Nuh-uh. Next, Black queer studies. I'm surprised that kind of got put in here to begin with. But, they wanted to be more inclusive. But, that is something that a lot of conservatives have been pushing back on and having problems with. They feel like it's an agenda, an agenda that they don't agree with, right? Because they agree with some agendas. But they don't want to hear about no Black gay people. no black LGBT folks. They don't want to hear about white LGBTQIA plus folks. So they really don't want to hear about black LGBTQIA plus folks. Next, movements for Black lives. Oh no, I mean, Lord forbid that the black people want to advocate for themselves. Where do them people get off saying that Black lives matter? Oh, them Black lives don't matter. They saying that only Black lives matter. That's not right. That's offensive to me as a Caucasian person. Right? Like, really? We still on this? Next, Black feminist literary thought. So they don't want to hear about they really don't want to hear about no black women problems. They don't want to hear about the white feminist problem. So they don't want to hear about the black feminist thought and theories and literature. Right? No intersectionality. Nuh-uh. It's either you're black or you're a woman. You can't be both. Oh, what? You thought you was going to benefit twice? Oh, you thought you was going to get the benefit, the handouts of a blackie, but also the handout of a woman too? Nuh-uh, you got to pick one. But that's what it really be about, though, because I heard that there was like this court case, I think with maybe General Motors or something, where like I believe a group of black women had filed a lawsuit. I'm not sure if it's General Motors for sure, but I feel like it is, but I'm not sure. But I will say a very well-known company. And the group of black women filed a lawsuit, and they were alleging discrimination based on race and gender. And the company argued that, well, we have, say, women who work for our company, white women. We also have black men who work for our company. Therefore, we are not racist, we are not bigoted, we are not discriminatory. And then they put forth, well, what about black women? And then I believe the judge even had at one point interjected and said, basically, black women can't benefit twice. Even though black women get hit twice, you can't benefit twice. Having to deal with the sexism, but also, the racism too. But that's an entirely different video for another day. But back to this video. So the next topic that they objected to was the reparations movement. You blackies can't get no money. Nuh-uh. What we giving y'all money for? I swear I tell you, these black people, they always want a handout. Ain't it enough that we gave you civil rights? Ain't it enough that we let you eat at the same table as us? Drink from the same water fountains as us? Go to the same schools as us? But it ain't never enough for these types. Ain't never enough for a black. You always got your hand out. And the last topics, black study and black struggle in the 20th century. So they don't want to study your blackies, and they also don't want to hear about your struggles. In the 20th century, nor in the 21st century, or the 19th century, 18th century, 17th century, no centuries, right? So, yeah, black studies and the black struggle in the 21st century, nuh-uh. Next, so it cited such concerns as intersectionality being central to critical race theory, course materials advocating for reparations and abolishing prisons, and readings by such thinkers as Bell Hooks, who the state complained authored intersectionality texts and wrote about the quote-unquote white supremacist capitalist patriarchy. I laugh because that phrase, white supremacist capitalist patriarchy, I hear that from the YouTube black feminists, who they are, who always be saying that phrase. And when I heard it, it reminded me of them, and how they be raging against the cis white heteronormative patriarchal structure. But look, they being real critical about this. They being real critical and saying, oh, we got to make sure that, this AP African American Studies, if it's going to be in our school systems, is on the quote unquote up and up, and it's in line with our agenda. Because, they can't be having conflicting agendas within the school system. They all got to be on one accord. They can't have the pro-black agenda next to the white degenerate cave dog agenda. Like, no, it's just not going to work for them. But the thing is, though, this course, I'm assuming this course would be an elective. I'm pretty sure, I don't feel like they would make this course a requirement. Usually AP courses in general are not required. They're usually considered to be elective courses for students who demonstrate advanced knowledge. But they ain't taking no chances with this, though. They ain't taking no chances. Let me continue with this article. So Florida cites critical race theory as a reason for rejecting the AP class after the state banned the concept from being taught in schools. Tenson told APR there isn't any actual critical race theory being taught in the AP course. However, noting that the framework of the theory is, quote unquote, too advanced for high school students, even in a college level course. If that is the case, then you can accept the course and just say, hey, you guys maybe need to retweak this particular section of the course. You don't have to throw out the whole course just because of this one section. But of course, it's more to it than that for them. Next, the purpose of the course is not to indoctrinate students. Oh, no, not with this agenda. They indoctrinate you with their agenda. Or guide them in some kind of political philosophy. Oh, no, nuh-uh. We can't have the students going, pro-black on us. We can't have little Rebecca and little Billy Bob going crazy about the blacks, going crazy for the blacks and advocating for them and feeling bad about being white and right. No, we can't have that. White is right. And I'm not going to let no blackish shame me for being white and right. All right? No. But to say it again, the purpose of the course is not to indoctrinate students or guide them in some kind of political philosophy. Brooklyn Brooks Higginbotham, a professor of African American Studies at Harvard University who advised on the course creation, told the Washington Post in December, quote unquote, the story is so much more complex than simply white people versus black people. But that's how they're going to see it, though. Evelyn, Brooks, Gotham, Higginbotham, Dr. Higginbotham. They fragile when it comes to this type of situations. They real fragile, right? The phrase white fragility. A surprising fact, Florida's rejection of the course comes despite the fact that the state legally requires schools to teach African American history. Oh, I did not know that. A statute in state law mandates that African American studies and history be taught in order to help students, quote unquote, develop an understanding of the ramifications of prejudice, racism, and stereotyping on individual freedoms. The statute does say that the instruction, quote unquote, may not be used to indoctrinate or persuade students in a particular point of view. That goes against, quote unquote, state academic standards as the state claims that the AP course does. That's going to be very objective, and they're probably going to have to, this goes to court, which it looks like a group of black activists are trying to take this to court. So if that is the case, then probably somehow, some way, it's going to have to be proven whether yay or nay, whether it's being used to indoctrinate or persuade students to a particular point of view or not. But the AP African American Studies is now being piloted in approximately 60 high schools across the country and will be available for any high school to offer starting in the 2024-2025 school year. And here are the closing statements of the article. Florida officials confirmed last week that they had rejected the AP African American Studies course, with the state's educational department claiming the course, quote unquote, lacks educational value and historical accuracy. Okay, I'm going to really need them to prove that, because right now I just feel like they're just saying stuff to rally up their base and just to say something. The move has since become a national controversy, with White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre saying the Biden administration found the move, quote unquote, incomprehensible and, quote unquote, concerning, and faith leaders and civil rights leaders in Florida mounting a statewide response in opposition. DeSantis doubled down on the state's opposition to the course in a press conference on Monday, claiming the curriculum was pushing a political agenda. And put that in quotes, a quote unquote political agenda that, parentheses, he did not agree with. And pointing to its studies in queer theory and intersectionality to defend the move. The course's rejection is part of a broader array of controversial efforts that DeSantis and his administration have imposed in order to push more right-wing policies in Florida education and prohibit supposedly, quote-unquote, woke ideologies, such as enacting legislation restricting LGBTQ issues and teaching that makes students feel like they bear, quote-unquote, personal responsibility for historic discriminations, like fragility, like I said, and imposing restrictions on what material classroom libraries can carry. So really, just to sum it all up, this ultimately, for me, I really think this just boils down to, is this something that's going to make white people feel uncomfortable? Is this something that is going to make white people feel at fault or guilty in some way? Even though this is not a required course, I don't think so. For some reason, I'm not getting the vibe that this is a required course. I could be wrong, but I really don't think this is going to be a required course. So it's going to be an elective. Therefore, if you are white and you don't want to take it, you don't have to take it. If you are black and don't want to take it, you don't have to take it. If you're any race and you don't want to take it, you don't have to take it. Why? Because it's an elective. You choose whether you want to take the course or not. Therefore, perhaps just let people choose whether they want to learn about this or not, since this is going to be an elective. This is not a course that students are going to need in order to fulfill graduation requirements. But still, it's too close for comfort. They want to make sure they send a message about things like this, because they got an agenda that they got to push. Because don't get it twisted, everybody pushing an agenda in some way, somehow, in some fashion. People are pushing an agenda, especially these politician types. But before I go, I do want to give a little bit of background on Ron DeSantis. So he was born on September 14th, 1978 in Jacksonville, and he is of Italian descent. And the thing is, when it comes to like these types, white people with a little spice in them, quote unquote, the thing is, in order for them to gain access into whiteness, they often have to forego and discard their ethnic heritage in some way, shape, or form. Right? So he can't come into whiteness speaking Italian. And the thing is, this is America, so he can't do that. So he has, I feel like it's political, but it's also him sending a message that he is down for whiteness. I know I may not be articulating my point in the best way, but basically what I'm trying to say is just that Ron possibly is the type that wants to prove his quote unquote whiteness and Americanness. And this is part of the way that he's doing it. And he's also a Republican and also is right leaning, or on the right side, which many people oftentimes view as being more American and more quote unquote white. But I'm going to bring this video to a close. I don't want to go on for too long. I've gone on for long enough. But I just wanted to put this out here and let you know what I think about all this and get you guys' thoughts and opinions on this as well. So let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section below. Until the next video, adios and goodbye for now.